So it's Easter Sunday, 2025. It is Sunday, April 20th, 2025. Thank you for joining me. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. Zelensky started out by saying this today: evil may have its hour, but God will have his day. This is one of the meanings enshrined in the story of Christ, of his earthly suffering and his death, and of his resurrection, and the truth that sooner or later, and yet invariably, evil will retreat and life will triumph. Well, he's not that far off. I mean, the story of Easter is a story of redemption. Christ is the final sacrifice to take sins. Okay, let's keep going. That is what we all have wanted for 1,152 days, and especially today when Ukrainians of all Christian denominations celebrate Easter on the same date. Together, we fight for Ukraine together, and we pray for Ukraine together. May evil's hour end. May the day of life arrive, the day of peace, the day of Ukraine, the day that lasts for centuries, and we will be able to come together again at one table on a peaceful Easter. May all of this come true. May God help us in this. May there be peace. May there be Ukraine. Christ is risen. He's risen indeed. All right. Zelensky has a way with words, and he does a great job of using whatever the occasion is to point us to peace in Ukraine. Okay. Now, meanwhile, here's Putin. Putin's in church. This is Anti-Goroshenko asking, what do you think he prays about? Because of Putin, millions of Ukrainians cannot go to Easter service. We have curfew. Russia's destroyed or damaged hundreds of churches, killed almost 70 priests and pastors. Now, I know some of you are going to be looking at this and thinking, see, Putin's just a religious hypocrite. I think he's using the church. Tell me what you think about that. Does he really sincerely believe this, or is he using it in the same way that Tsars and even Stalin would use the church by allowing a certain Orthodox church that was basically under KGB control? At any rate, here's Darth Putin saying on this day in AD 33, the illegal Judean state junta's false flag crucifixion to undermine the legitimate Roman regime was unraveled when Christ was seen alive and well 3 days after he was supposed to be dead. This is how the Kremlin would have reported Easter. Okay, let's look at the battlefield. For a truce, there are still a lot of casualties, 950 casualties day over day. Now, again, the truce started at 6 o'clock p.m., but it didn't last very long either. 1 tank off the battlefield, armored fighting vehicles, 49 artillery systems, 111 vehicles and fuel tanks. This despite the truce. Now, that 950 number is interesting because it's the lowest number. This is Ragnar Gudmundsson. We're going to be learning more and more about his charts and his dashboard. First, less than 1,000 casualties since July 26 of 2024. So that's what the intensity has been like on the battlefield. And here, if we look at a chart, 950, most recent day, it's 20% lower than the 7-day average. So, okay, I mean, a truce gets you 20% less, but that means there's still 80% fighting. That's where the Russians are. This is 5 minutes before Putin's ceasefire. Russia attacked a residential building in Kherson. These were with Shahed drones that were flying in the sky as Putin's announcing the truce to start at 6 p.m. The man in the video, I listened to the video. It's not in English, but apparently he said, "Don't trust Putin. This is Putin's truce." That's how Ukrainians understand what Russia's doing. President Zelensky regarding Putin's statement about a 30-hour ceasefire said this: "It was beautiful. It was masterful." So Putin put Ukraine in an odd place because if Ukraine fires back, then they break the truce, and even if they don't, they're going to report that they fired at first and make it some kind of publicity stunt, right? Okay, so Zelensky said this: "Silence in response to silence, strikes in defense from strikes. If the complete silence will really be established, Ukraine will offer to continue it after the end of the Easter day on April 20th. This will show Russia's true intentions, as 30 hours is enough for headlines, but not for true trust-enforcing exercises. 30 days can give peace a chance." So he offered a 30-day, and I put this into a video here. Like I said, outmaneuvered Putin. Zelensky outsmarts Putin in a surprising turn of events. That's right. I mean, he put that out, and like it was hard for, okay, so Putin really was putting Ukraine in a difficult place, and Zelensky turned it back on him by saying, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's do it for 30 days, which Putin certainly is not going to honor. Okay, the Ukrainian armed forces received orders not to open fire after the start of the truce, according to the BBC. And for anyone who wants to know what's going on in Ukraine right now, in Kherson, artillery is working there like never before. Zaporizhia is quieter. Donetsk and Kharkiv, much more activity. There is no ceasefire. Yeah, but Gerdes, look at this. It's 4:13 p.m. Right, but I'm on the East Coast. So add about 6 hours to that. So that would be 10 p.m. and that's different. That's right in the middle of what should be the truce. Okay. Russia continues to attack despite its own Easter truce. Zelensky says Ukraine registered extensive hostile activity, including hundreds of artillery strikes, direct assaults, drone attacks, as Moscow tries to create a general impression of a ceasefire. But I don't think it's going to. I think even Witkoff is going to know, even if he's not going to say it, that this wasn't really a truce. Air raids are sounding over Kyiv right now for the second time after Russia declared its Easter ceasefire. Again, if you go to this is about 3 o'clock and you add 6 hours to that, that's 9 o'clock. This is Sergei Simleny posting this. Yeah, it's still happening. Across 36 attacks in a day, despite a very, very low number, lowest number in like more than half a year. Yeah, okay. Okay, Zelensky again, a report by Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi on the front line as of 6 a.m. Okay, so that was this morning, 6 a.m. across various frontline directions. There have already been 59 cases of Russian shelling, 5 assaults by Russian units in the sector of Staroblisk Operational Tactical Group. 1 combat engagement was documented. The Donetsk OTG sector, there were 3 combat engagements in the Pokrovsk and Novopolivka directions, and 1 combat engagement took place near Sepov and Zaporizhia direction. The enemy carried out dozens of FPV drone strikes in the Kursk region. Russian forces conducted artillery strikes and used drones. Everywhere, our warriors are responding as the enemy deserves. So if you actually gave us silence, we'd actually give you silence back, but otherwise. Okay, so after Putin announces the 48-hour ceasefire, 1 Ukrainian officer on the front line tells us they've been ordered to stop shooting. So this is a BBC report. Listen to this.
By Russia over this Easter weekend, this 48-hour ceasefire. Now, Vladimir Putin has done this before. He did it in early 2023 over the Christmas holidays. We reported from the frontline city of Bakhmut, which fell shortly after that. There was no letting up in the fighting.
Yeah, and there was no letting up in the fighting here either, just like there was none in that Christmas ceasefire. Okay, Easter Sunday in Ukraine begins at sunrise with generally speaking, this is just how Easter Sunday, how they roll. It begins at sunrise with the resurrection service. All the faithful circle the church 3 times in a solemn procession. At the door, symbolizing the gates of heaven, the priest sings Christos Voskres. I think that's Christ is risen. I don't speak Ukrainian, but that's a traditional Easter greeting. And strikes them with a crucifix before entering for the divine liturgy. Families greet each other and share their blessed Easter baskets. Now, these aren't like Easter egg baskets with candies. These are like bread baskets and such. The front lines, many Ukrainian soldiers also mark Easter, lighting candles, praying, and sharing Pascha and eggs, honoring tradition. Even in war today, their faith and sacrifice are part of the Easter celebrations. Okay, so here's the Pascha bread. And when I said not the candy that we have, like it's very different in the U.S. It's a lot more sugary kind of stuff. But the Pascha bread, which looks delicious. And okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, they can't necessarily do that, but maybe they can. For Easter, the Easter cakes were delivered to Ukrainian defenders at the front line by drones. 6,000 Easter cakes were blessed on the day before in St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery in Kyiv. And so here we go. We're going to start sending those Easter cakes up to soldiers. There you go. Boom. All right. And what's it look like? It looks like this kind of delivery. Okay, like you don't want to be in harm's way and get shot for that, but it's kind of cool that they could still get those things delivered. It's good practice, too, for the drone operators. Okay, another night ends. Our mission continues. Good night from the drone warriors. But there's more. Here's some more. There was some good news yesterday. Russia and Ukraine swapped 500 plus prisoners in what may be the biggest exchange yet. Freed Ukrainians include Mariupol defenders, injured troops, and even one woman held since 2022. We'll come back to that woman just a moment. Meanwhile, the border guard showed footage from yesterday's prison exchange, 277 Ukrainian defenders and an equal number, I think, on the other side. So they're happy to be there. The Russians, not so much, though. These guys have tears in their eyes as they're coming back to Ukraine. The Russians, well, Russian POWs returned after an exchange. They look like they've been thrown back into the meat grinder. Remember, in Russia, surrendering is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. So now this is the woman I was talking about. These are Ruslan and Margarita Vanherad, son and mother. They spent 3 years in Russian captivity, not knowing anything about each other's fate. They finally saw each other today. All right. Last couple things, Darth Putin. This means we expect Ukraine to cease while we fire. That is kind of how Putin has been operating a ceasefire. And then finally, we'll leave you with this image. Happy Easter. The good will definitely defeat evil. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine. Happy Easter.